Hey everyone, and welcome back to Ontario Cryptids. First, I would like to thank all the new folks who have recently subscribed to my channel. Welcome everyone. Second, I would like to thank all the folks who keep on coming back week after week, leaving a thumbs up and their comments. It is much appreciated. A big heartfelt thank you to you all. As you know, I'm always looking for great stories to be shared on this channel. So if you have a story that you would like to share in a safe environment, then forward your encounter stories to OntarioCryptids@gmail.com. Today, I'll be sharing 3 stories with you all, which I know you're going to enjoy. So go grab yourself a beverage and get cozy on the couch or chair and sit back and relax. All right, so this first story takes place on September 19th of 2003, and it takes place in Del Norte County, California, and the nearest town is Crescent City. I'm a 54-year-old man living in San Francisco. I have never had any interest in this subject until this weekend. An old friend of mine moved to Gold Beach, Oregon, and I was driving up to see him. I had never been on Highway 101 before, and I became nervous driving on the 2-lane winding roads. I kept pulling over to let the cars in the back of me pass. At about 20 miles or so before hitting Crescent City, I pulled off to allow cars to go by. As I went to pull back on Highway 101, I heard the most horrifying scream that I have ever heard. I screamed myself and ducked down on my seat. Looking up next to my Honda CR-V was a filthy-looking gorilla, best that I can describe it. It instantly ran into the tree line a few feet away and vanished into the dense brush. I saw it for maybe 3 to 4 seconds at a 3/4 profile. I would say that it was maybe 6.5 feet to 7 feet tall, with a wedged head, and it had a very dirty, matted, dark brown, dull hair. Strangely enough, seeing the thing didn't frighten me, but the scream it gave out only a few feet away from my open window almost gave me a heart attack. I have never heard a noise like that, and I never want to hear it again. All right, this next story takes place October 4th, 2011 in Polk County, North Carolina, and the nearest town is Mill Spring. On October 2011, we found footprints leading away from our outdoor fire pit. Something had stepped in wet ash after a big storm. We could see where it had tried to wipe ash off on the rocks and then took long strides across the yard. Several years later, years not recalled, on a camping trip near the same area, at about 7 p.m., I heard heavy footfalls, a knock, in a pattern of 5 or 6 knocks. Then about 100 yards away from that, I heard another commotion and more heavy footfalls running towards the first. It sounded like the 2 animals met and a flock of turkeys sleeping in a thicket was just annihilated. The attack lasted 15 seconds with the turkeys screeching and flapping loudly. Later that night, I heard the same knocking pattern and then an answer in the far distance with the same pattern. A few years later, back at my home, during a break in a huge storm at about 2 a.m., I heard something trying to climb over the wire fence in my backyard. My son and I went out with guns as we've had some vandalism incidents. On the back porch, the fence was still shaking, and we heard footfalls crashing to our left. I yelled out for whomever it may be to leave us alone. I announced that we were armed. Then we heard a loud crack like a rifle shot from the direction of the footsteps. At this time, we were really afraid, and I emptied my shotgun towards the crack sound. There were several more pops, and I pushed my son and my now awake wife back into the house, and then emptied my .22 rifle. As my son handed me the shotgun he'd reloaded, the cracking increased, and I realized something was pushing a huge tree over, and the cracks were the splitting of the wood. The tree crashed to the ground, literally shaking the whole house. My family pushed their way back outside, terrified, and we all heard loud footfalls running away from the fallen tree. All right, so this is the last story of the day, and this one takes place November 26, 2012. It takes place in Harrison County, Ohio, and the nearest town is Skio. Okay, so this person gives the, I would say, exact location of where they live, which I'm not going to state. They also give their name, which I'm only going to give her initial. So let's get into the story. My name is C.S. I'm 39 years old. I live in Skio, Harrison County, Ohio. In the summer of 2011, my friend was staying in a tent in my yard for about 2 months. She said she could hear something big walking towards her tent. Then one night, I was in the house on Facebook around 2 a.m., and my girlfriend was on her laptop in her tent on Facebook. She messaged me to come outside right away, that something was sniffing loudly and breathing heavy walking around her tent. I walked outside thinking she just was freaking herself out, thinking she was hearing things. I kind of laughed it off. I opened the door and yelled if she was okay. She yelled back for me to come to the tent, so I grabbed a flashlight and walked down. I didn't see anything. If there was something there, it ran away. I told her it was a deer, and she was not convinced. In the summer of 2012, both of my daughters, 16 and 17, came into the house after taking our dog out around 11 p.m., shaken and scared, saying that they have seen something really big standing by our tree in the backyard, which leads into the woods. Again, another night, they were walking to the house up the driveway around midnight and came in scared and said that they had seen the same thing walking around our pool and then walked into the woods. I never really believed them. I tried to convince them that there was nothing there, that it was their imagination because they had overheard my friend talking about what she had heard a year previously while she camped in our yard. I told them the dog would bark or growl if something was out there. Then on November 27th, 2012, around 11:45 p.m., I took out our 5-month-old pup outside to go do his thing. I walked out the door, turned right with the pup on a leash towards the woodline, maybe 20 or 30 feet from the door. As I started to get closer, maybe 3 feet away, I heard something big shuffling in the briars. I turned, thinking it was a deer. When I turned around, it stood straight up. It was very big, very tall, very wide. My guess would be at least 7 feet tall. Very broad chest, which was all I could see besides the outline of its body. It was a very dark night, and it blended right in with the darkness except for the chest and stomach, not sure which. It happened so fast. As it stood up, that part of it was lit up in the moonlight. I screamed very loudly and ran to the house, dragging the puppy behind me, which I don't believe the pup even realized it was there. It scared me so badly I was shaking and crying. My husband and 21-year-old son, who also did not believe the stories from my daughters and my friend, went outside with a small flashlight and a knife for protection to try to find out what it was. My son said that it was still out there and that it was behind the tire swing. He saw its shadow prior to it running away from him towards the spring on the hillside, which is nothing but briars. He said that he couldn't see it after that, but it was there because it stopped running, but he couldn't see it nor hear it. He had this eerie feeling it was staring right at him. They both came back inside, and my son had the same description as me, very, very tall, very, very wide. But he only seen the back of it as it ran up the hill into the briars. My husband thinks it was curious, whatever it was, because it snooped around but ran away. I truly believe that it was a Bigfoot. It was hanging around for over a year that we know of. All right, I don't know about you guys, but I have to say all of these were Sasquatch/Bigfoot related stories, and great ones at that. Now, today's stories are a little bit short, and I do apologize for that, but summer is here, and there is a lot to do out in the yard and around the house. Again, my apologies. Next time I'm going to look for some stories which are a little longer. So on that note, if these stories reminded you of an encounter that you may have had and would like to share, then please forward your stories to OntarioCryptids@gmail.com. I would be honored to share your stories on this channel. Finally, thank you all for listening until the end. I truly appreciate it. Please hit that like button on your way out and smash that subscribe button if you're new to my channel. Let's see if we can't get over 50 thumbs up for this episode. And all I have left to say is I hope you all have a fantastic weekend, and we'll see you all next week.